Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and today's podcast interview is with BJA member GreaseMonkey. If you are a member, then you should know GreaseMonkey because he's created a lot of really great content on the forum over the last few years, and he's going to share with us his story of why he got into card counting, what it was like playing on his own bankroll, as well as being bankrolled by another player, and why he ultimately decided how card counting did and then didn't fit into his life. It's a really fascinating perspective from a really great guy. I'm sure you're going to love it. This is part one of a two-part interview with GreaseMonkey. Enjoy. Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I am joined via the internet by GreaseMonkey. How are you doing?
Hey, good to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. If you've listened to enough of our podcast, you might recognize his voice because he actually interviewed me a few years ago before my book was published, and that was a lot of fun. I got to do that in his professional recording studio space, and now the tables are turned. I'm interviewing him, so thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. I'm really excited to dig in with you.
Yeah, and we actually had it all scheduled. I had flights booked, and we were going to do a handful of podcasts in your professional studio a year and a half ago, and then the world changed. So that didn't get to happen. But we're doing this now via Zoom technology. So, and a lot has changed. Not just the world has changed. You are no longer an active AP, and who knows what else has changed. But before I get ahead of myself, why don't we just start, if you don't mind sharing how you got into Advantage Play?
Sure. Really, my AP play started with high cholesterol. And I got high cholesterol. I went to the doctor. They put me on this medicine. And I thought that one of the side effects from the medicine, I know one of the side effects from the medicine was like I couldn't remember stuff. And I was like going to the grocery store and I'd bump into somebody and I couldn't recognize, I recognized them, but I didn't know what their name was. And like, I'm a huge Eagles fan and I couldn't remember all the members of the Eagles and it would drive me crazy. Like I could remember Don Felder, but then I couldn't remember Don Henley. Or if I remember Don Henley, I couldn't remember, it was like driving me crazy. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to start playing all these word games and I'm going to start playing all these math games and I'm going to get my brain moving here in a different way than normal. And I had remembered a conversation I had had with my stepbrother, like literally 20 years ago in passing. And he had just kind of casually mentioned that you could count cards in blackjack and actually beat the system. And so as I was kind of going through this process of figuring out different games to play, you can only play Word with Friends so much. I thought, okay, I'm going to learn how to count cards. So even if I never use it, this is going to be my thing, and it's going to be a great side project. It's going to get my brain going in a different way, and so I did that, and then it turns out that I loved it. I loved the process of learning how to do this because I was getting into the flow. It was like that kind of deep concentration mode where the rest of the world almost like falls away and time falls away, and so there was just kind of like this connection. Where it was like, okay, this is good for my brain. I'm enjoying this process. Let's keep going. And so I kind of went through your course on blackjackapprenticeship.com. And then I started becoming active in the forum. And that led to an encounter with Sassy Red, which was really transformational for me because, by then I had been practicing my butt off, but watching another professional play and also watching a professional see me play and getting that kind of feedback was just massive. And maybe an endorsement from Sassy Red led to an introduction to Spartan and Levi Mish. And all of a sudden I'm getting training from some of the very best card counters in the world. And that led to boot camp. And a whole bunch of other great adventures, essentially. So in short, it all started with cholesterol and ended up being a huge adventure over, several years of card counting and AP life.
And pretty early on to your journey, at least as far as when you joined Blackjack Apprenticeship, was being active on the forum and contributing quite a bit. What kind of encouraged you to be so active on the forum?
There's a couple things. One, the card counting course on its own really teaches you the fundamentals of card counting. And then if you start noodling around on the forum is like this great counterweight to the course, which is people talking about what they've learned, talking about, well, you've got a lot more videos up on the site now than you did maybe like 3.5 years ago.
Probably.
You start learning about the other nuances of the game outside of just the mechanics. And so I went back and read, probably like a year's worth of posts, maybe like a year and a half worth of posts. And then finally got the courage to start asking questions on the forum. And like a really tough one for me at the beginning was this idea of, okay, let's say you go to a casino and you win $5,000, but the EV for that session is only like $500. Well, what do you do? What's going to happen? Are you going to lose all that money? Or do you just kind of go home and pack it up and say, hey, I got lucky? Or, I really had trouble kind of like reconciling what to do in that kind of a situation, if I was ever even lucky enough to have that situation. And guys like Nubs on the forum and Nichols and Stan started weighing in, and it immediately felt like a very safe place to ask an open and honest question, as long as it was clear that you had done your homework beforehand, right? So yeah. I kind of felt like, okay, if I am respectful of other people's time and show that I have scoured the boards or whatever, then asking these questions is going to be okay. And then that kind of led. I know you're asking about the board specifically, but it kind of goes hand in hand with the DMs on the website, because when people respond to you on the forum publicly, well, one thing that's really nice to do is send them a DM and say, hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to answer my question. And, hey, if you're ever in my area, I'd love to buy you a beer or whatever. And so all of a sudden you're developing relationships, and that kind of gives you a little bit more confidence on the forum, I think, or at least it did for me. And then I started DMing things that I didn't feel comfortable asking on the forum at that time. And I can tell you a story in a moment about that. But these things snowball where it's like, okay, my questions are resonating on the forum. And now I'm learning from some of the very best. And maybe I can give back to the forum by writing about some of my experiences or what I'm learning. Some of the people I had DM'd with were talking about issues that they were having. I remember at one point, like Gus 45 had like this massive losing streak. I mean, he talked about it on the forum a lot, and we had talked about it on privately as well. And then it was kind of like, well, what can I write on the forum that would be a give back to the community that could also help my buddy Gus 45 that's going through this like brutal losing streak. And he's a guy that I really respect. And so essentially all these things kind of converged, and it was like, okay, I want to take what I've learned and I want to throw it out there on the forum. And if you disagree, feel free to shoot it down. And if it's helpful, fantastic. And it turned out that a lot of the things that I wrote seemed to have resonated with a bunch of people. So which was fantastic, and it feels great. Thank you for reading it.
It's been really fun having you on the site the last few years. I mean, man, the forum is like 13 years old, but there's different seasons of it, and I feel like it keeps getting sweeter, every couple of years. But
it's really good. I mean, you get a rotation on there, so people that are heavily active during a certain phase of their playing career, or as they're accumulating knowledge or dispensing knowledge, those people I think get extremely active for a while, and then somebody else picks up the slack, and somebody else is in that situation. And I think that's fantastic, because we learn by teaching as well, and it reinforces what we know when we teach it.
Totally, totally. So you did this as kind of a mental exercise pursuit, but then you decided you wanted to kind of put into practice, and that involved, well, why don't you just tell us how that path
Sure.
went?
So I was doing, I was like, all right, let me see if I can do this. I set aside $5,000, and it was going to be this small mini bankroll, but a $5,000 bankroll was really cost me $10,000 because I had a deal with my wife, which is like, well, if you're going to take, $5,000 of our hard-earned savings to go pursue this thing, well, then I want $5,000 to go do my thing. And it's like, well, that's totally fair.
Yeah.
But in my world, a $5,000 bankroll really cost me $10,000, right? So anyways, I take the money out. Actually, I didn't even take all the money out. I think I probably went to the casino with like $500 or $1,000. And at first I just kind of flat bet and tried to count at the same time and, using basic strategy, and then started using a bet spread. And it was really hard, but I loved it. Whatever, kind of fast forward, it was like, okay, now I know I can do this. I know I can do this. I'm enjoying it. I'm spending my time doing it, but it is so silly doing this for like $12 an hour. And I never did it for the money. I was never in this for the money, but it kind of led to like this $50,000 investment from a guy that I had met on the boards, Johnny2332.
That sounds so bad. Turned into this $50,000 investment from a guy that I met through a board.
Well, it's true. And actually I met him through another guy on the board. So there was a guy on the board. I don't remember what his handle was anymore, but he was coming down from Vegas. He was in private equity, and I was like just fascinated by meeting APs because, like, to me they're like the cowboys of the Wild West. It's like, what, people are doing this? They're like, for their career, they're or for 100 hours, 40 hours a month, or 50 hours a month, they're actually going and beating casinos. They're like, this is crazy. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. So I kind of went through this period where I was really excited to meet as many APs as I could. And so this guy comes down and we meet at a casino. And he says, oh, this other guy, Johnny2332 from the forum is coming. And Johnny is the kind of guy that, like, he just peppers you with questions. Like, and I literally just finished shaking out my hand. He's like, so you're GreaseMonkey? Yeah. You do all those posts on the forum? Yeah. Where'd you learn to write? How many hours have you played? Just like spitballing all these questions. And I just thought it was funny and I loved it. And he's super charismatic, when he's doing this. And it was so loud in the casino, and we'd agreed to meet at another casino, like, in a couple of weeks, and we had breakfast, and he had watched me play. And then he kind of comes up to me and he's like, we're talking one night, and he's like, you know what your problem is? You've never really been tested. It's like, it's one thing when you're betting, $10 and spreading up to two hands of 40, but you've never bet with real money. And I'm like, well, you're right. I haven't. And he's like, what if I just gave you $10,000 in cash and I gave you a bet spread, and we're going to meet at this gas station. I'm going to give you the money. You're going to do the bet spread. I'm going to watch. And I had to, like, think about it. I had to talk to my wife. I'm like, is this weird? Yeah. I mean, this is weird. It's like, but we did it. And he watched me play, and it went really well. And then he's like, okay, you go to boot camp, and after your boot camp, why don't we talk about, whether or not you would be interested in taking an investment from me. And I told him, it's like, hey, I don't know if I can really get you enough hours. And his whole thing was, he was getting a lot of hours in, and anything that would chip away at hours to get to NO is hours that count. So he was just kind of happy to do that. And so anyways, I went to the boot camp. I failed my test out. I think there was a deviation that I missed at the tail end of my shoe with you. But it was fine. I mean, it was great. Other than that, I was proud of how I did. I think you said, just go keep generating EV. I went back.
I remember you had a strong game. I remember. I don't remember the deviation mistake, but I remember, it was like, not being concerned about your game.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. And it was good enough for Johnny. And so I wanted to pursue this. He was looking for somebody to whittle down hours, and I was like, all right, let's go do it. And then we ended up traveling, across several states as frequently as we could, and it was just so much. The whole thing was awesome. I mean, the car rides, the late nights, the hotels, the hovering for each other, the walking past each other as one of us is getting up from a table saying, hey, you got a running 15 here, and the other one would sit. I mean, the whole thing was just such a great adventure, and it was so much fun.
So you guys did
how it happened.
You did a little bit of team play then? Like
we were never playing at the same table at the same time, but like if one of us really had to go to the bathroom and there was a good count, maybe we would motion to each other, or we would be texting each other. There was one time in Southern California where there was a guy literally from the casino just standing behind Johnny. I don't even think he was aware of it. He'd been there for like 15 minutes. It's like, God, I better text him. It might be time to cut this loose here and roll. It didn't work. But, he ended up getting booted anyways. But we just kind of built this camaraderie and this friendship that really extended beyond Blackjack as well. But Blackjack was the catalyst.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted two thoughts there. One is just clarify for those that maybe haven't really thought about how team play works, but from Johnny 2332's perspective, the cards don't care who is playing them, whether it's himself or you. And so for him to bankroll you, he's going to have to give you some cut of it, but you're just helping him get to the long run faster. I think because you were saying, I don't know if you can get in enough hours, but from his standpoint, any hours you get in are, if you're playing as well as him, are just helping him get to the long run faster, outside of the fact that you're going to get a cut from it. I don't know if people understand that. The cards don't, it's not like, GreaseMonkey has to get to the long run and Johnny 2332 has to get to the long run. It's like, same bankroll. Whoever's playing is just getting in hours. The other thing is just, I've said this before, but being teamed up with other people is a lot of the fun that I had as a card counter is thinking back to those relationships and, the camaraderie and all that stuff. Plenty of people do it without that. And I think there are substitutes for that now, but I can resonate with what you're saying about those trips and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's more fun being in a 5-hour car ride when there's somebody else there,
Yeah.
And something, at least to me, magical happens in car rides with other people. Like, I don't know if like your brain kind of like switches, or maybe it's like the hypnotic rumbling of the car or seeing the lines on the road, but like people start really opening up. And you start talking about things that you wouldn't maybe necessarily talk about if you just met somebody, in a diner or whatever, and I love that, so I'd way rather have fewer friends, but have really deep connections with those friends than just kind of having this like topical, senseless conversation all the time. And so car rides are a great way to foster that environment. So I love that.
So how did you kind of fit this, side AP part of your life with running a full-time business, family, all that?
That's a great question. I mean, ultimately, the short answer is that I found out that I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we can talk about that, a little bit, but in the beginning, it was really hard because, there was a commitment of time for card counting that you can't remove. I mean, even if you're card counting and making $300 an hour, like hypothetically, you still have to get the hours in, right? I mean, if the goal is to get to 2NO, which is 4 times NO, right? To kind of iron out all that variance and get all the luck out of what you're doing. And that's when obviously EV and AV they really should converge by then, right? You have to put in the time. And it's just really, really hard to run a business, be a father, be a husband, exercise, whatever else is going on, and do card counting, or at least the way that I wanted to do card counting. Also, I mean, caveat here, where I live, the games are mediocre at best. So like, if you really want to have, if you want to play high quality games, you're going to have to spend some time traveling as well. So it's not just the time in the casino, but it's all the extra time of travel and planning travel. And so it was really tough. And I mean, for me, I think, I mean, if you, we could kind of go deep here for a second, but I think if you kind of know me as a person, I mean, my dad died when I was 8 years old. I've always been acutely aware because of that, of how little free time I have. And then my mom ended up marrying a guy that was a alcoholic who was like verbally abusive to just about everybody in the family. And so for me, like being a father, and a really good father and a hands-on father, was always my top priority, because one, I didn't have a father for a lot of my childhood. And then I kind of had a lousy one later. Right. So, yeah. So the thing is that, between like, the business part was part of it, but I think part of the walking away was like, are my goals in alignment with my actions? And for a while they were, because I was learning something. I was using my brain in a new way. And then after a while they weren't, because all of a sudden I'm traveling more. I'm away from the house more, even when I'm home. If I'm, playing the mediocre game, that was still tolerable. I'm getting sick more, like I have just a crappy immune system, and, casinos are these like germy places, even pre-COVID, it's like, and it was like, all right, well, I got sick. My kids got sick from me, and they missed a week of school. I ended up missing work. And it's like, this is ridiculous. It's like, this no longer is in alignment with what I want to accomplish in my life. And so, I guess you asked, is it, how does it fit into a successful business? Well, for me, it was more than just a successful business. It was more like, is it in alignment with running what a successful life to me was? And for me personally, the answer, I guess, was no. There are, by the way, a ton of overlaps between running a successful business and card counting, though. I mean, there really are. Commitment to excellence, is, look, you have to strive for perfection in card counting. You have to commit to excellence. And if you don't, you will lose your money with a negative EV game. And networking, there's the overlap between, at least my experience with Blackjack, Apprenticeship, and card counting, and networking, as well as like networking in business. Mental models are something that like really, really interests me. Confirmation bias. I'm like so afraid of confirmation bias in my life. Like I'm always like, it's like, am I seeing something and then repeating that action because I think that it's the right thing, just because I keep seeing it over and over again.
Totally. Yeah.
And that happens in business as well. And how many times have you seen a ploppy, make a stupid move like, oh, I always hit a 15 on a 5 because it works and I always get the 6, or like, just something stupid, right? And it's like, and that's confirmation bias. It's like, oh, I'm going to keep doing this because it worked once. And so I don't know. So there's all these overlaps for sure between business and Blackjack. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of good stuff, for one thing I'd say is, you were talking about the level of time it takes to put into card counting to do it well. We found that with the church team, there was this thought kind of, we start adding players to the team, and there's this thought of, oh, we could just have, this army of people. We knew quite a few people that were trying to start businesses or plant a church or things like that. I was like, oh, they could just go to Vegas once a month and make enough to live off of. and, work on their thing. Like a guy that was becoming a photographer and he had to work at Starbucks to like pay the bills while he built up his photography business. Oh no, don't do that. Just, fly to a different destination around the country for 3 days, make the same you'd make in a month at Starbucks. And then we learned that doesn't work. You can't be excellent at this when you forget about it for 27 days and then try to like pick it up and do it, at a professional level. So we had to let all those people go, at one point, because it was like, oh, if you're not committed to this, it's just not going to work. I think that's a really valid point. And also I think it's courageous that you said, hey, this isn't a good fit for my family, even though you'd put so much, into it, from training and, investing time on the forum and getting tested out and all that. It takes some courage to say, oh, that was fun, but it doesn't fit where I'm going moving forward.
And something being the right choice and an easy decision is not mutually exclusive with being absolutely devastating. I mean, I cried. Yeah. It was brutal. I mean, you put in so much time, so much effort, and it's fun. I mean, for me, it was always fun. I know pros that it's not fun for them anymore. They're continuing to do it, and it's just a grind. And there's really no pleasure in it anymore. It was never that way for me. For me, maybe because it was a side thing. It was always a blast every time. And for me, like, I kind of embrace all emotions. So even if I got completely shellacked at a table, which is the worst feeling in the world, for me, it was still like, you know what? That totally sucked. And I hate this feeling, but this is part of it. And I signed up for it. And, you play baseball, you're going to strike out. If you hit 300, you're a pretty good hitter, right? So failing and losing is part of it. But so it was devastating, and it was absolutely brutal to walk away, even though I knew it was the right thing to do. And I miss it, but I don't miss it enough to lose these other things in my life that are just really, really important to me. We only get one life as far as we know. Right. So we need to do it the right way.
It's like the tough choice between a good thing and better things, or there's some saying there, like the enemy of best is good enough, or I don't know, something like that.
Totally.
Do you have some stories just from your playing days you want to share with us?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing the first one really goes back to the forum and those DMs. And I was early in my card counting career. It's before I had gotten money from Johnny. And I was sitting at a table, and I think it was like the Friday after Thanksgiving or something like that, which for me was great because I wasn't going to go to work that day. And I thought, okay, I can get in a whole bunch of hours, and the kids have play dates, and, my wife is doing her thing. Like, I'm going to go get in this time. And I think I got there like, early afternoon or something. And I'm sitting at the table, and I'm at the point where I can carry on a conversation and play or a light conversation. Because for me, when I play and my synapses are firing and it's just like bim, boom, bam, it's like I can do a lot. I can like tell a stupid joke and look somebody in the eye, and I'm counting and I'm rocking it. Like that was part of my thing. And this woman is like plastered, and she's got like 4 teeth, and she's complaining about how she doesn't have any money. And yet she's forking over money and playing, and she's like crying at the table. I mean, the whole thing was just like a train wreck, right? I mean, it's just kind of like, oh my God, I hope I never become that. I'm afraid of becoming that. I'm not gambling, I'm card counting. But this is really scary to see. And my inclination is to help that person. My inclination is, hey, let me get you a cab. I want to help this person. And the whole thing really shook me, because here I am to count and make my lousy, $14 an hour or whatever it was that I was, doing, that. And I'm thinking, this is awful. This person needs help. I need to help this person right now. So I ended up DMing both Nichols and Sassy Red about this experience. And we had built up friendships because of these DMs, and the DMs had happened because of the posts on the forum, right? And just kind of diving in and being part of this community, making a choice to proactively be part of this community. And I was like, what do I do? Or what do you do? Really, not what do I do? What do you do? Right? Because these are people that have hundreds of hours at the tables. And they both said similar things that were extremely helpful, which was that to truly help somebody in a situation like that, you can't have like one touch and help them. Like that person needs therapy that over hundreds of hours, several times a week, will make a choice to get better, right? And because they want to work on themselves, Yeah. And it was really important for me to hear that, because you can't save the world. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always help somebody, but I guess their point was, it's great that you want to help this person. The truth is, you're not going to see this person again, and you're not going to help that person. That person gets help from somebody that's has some sort of a relationship with many touches over time, And yeah. So I'm telling this story because that's the power of the forum, and that's the power of the community. You develop a relationship, and you get help when you need it, whether it's public or private, and somebody walks you through a perspective. I don't know. There's not where I live. Well, actually, ironically, there are a lot of card counters where I live, but but at this phase of my career, I didn't know that. And to have those kind of resources was invaluable. And it was really, really cool. So
to speak to that point, that's why an intervention is like the closest family members, because it's going to create, the idea is that the cost will be so great that the person might actually get help. Yes. If the closest family members say, hey, if you don't get help, we care about you so much, we're going to have to, cut you out because you're killing yourself, Well, it doesn't work if a bunch of strangers are like, we're going to cut you out if you don't get help, And I remember the same thing. And to your point, it was my community early on, my teammates, and I'd see the same, addicts at the casino every day. And it's, what can I do about, this guy that is, losing money, doesn't look like he can afford to, and we'd have these same conversations of, how we can care, we can empathize, but can't really, they're going to need to want change, and it's a long path, and they have to want it, and we don't have that leverage, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're not going to have that ability in those moments. But I do think that the whole sharing your story, I didn't know until like 3 or 4 years ago how important that is, just like in life. There's a great book called Sick in the Head by Judd Apatow, where I don't know if you know who Judd Apatow is, or he's a writer and director of all these comedies. He did this book, which is basically him interviewing all these comedians. And it turns out that he had interviewed a whole bunch of these guys when he was in high school, because his high school had a radio station. And so he would literally call up Jerry Seinfeld's manager, and the manager didn't know that it was just a high school radio station, right? So they'd say, oh, well, yeah, we'd love to get you on the air, right? So Judd Apatow interviews Jay Leno, Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, all these guys. And then, 20, 30 years later, Judd Apatow is this media mogul, and he goes and interviews them all again. Well, anyways, in Sick in the Head, Judd Apatow just keeps talking over and over and over again about what he learned in life is that you tell your story, because you telling your story will ultimately affect others and bring you together. And again, that's community, and it's cathartic as well. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a book that you love that I love too, called Tribe. And it talks a lot about, kind of community as well, and kind of the importance of community. And there's a lot to unpack in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of our, we got our 5 from the forum. So one of our forum questions, we might get into this a little bit more, but, really we're designed to know and to be known, at least I believe that, and vulnerability, having people that we can be honest with, that can empathize or understand, is such a massive game changer compared to just having to hold on to it all yourself and keep it all in,
Yeah.
and keep a strong shell, but not have that.
Vulnerability and courage are two sides of the same coin. So and you need that to tell your story, and that's when you tell your story, you are choosing to be part of a community and reach out. So
it's risky too, because people might, they might mock you, or they might share your story in an unflattering way to other people. But if you find those people that really care about you and are going to honor and respect that, it's a life changer.
Well, and I think the forum for the most part does do that. I can think of over the last 3 or 4 years, a couple of people that probably were not very careful in choosing their words and probably showed their true colors, and they probably didn't get that from the BJA community. But I think that for the most part, people are extremely respectful, and that's been my experience, not just when I'm interacting, but the other things that I read on the forum as well. So.
Yeah, that's super important to me, and I'm really thankful that people have used the forum in that way. Any other stories from your playing days you want to share?
Yeah, I got a bunch. I'll tell you what I think is an unhelpful story, and I'll tell you why it's unhelpful, but it's still a great story. I was at a casino, and I had the closest version of a golden shoe that I ever had. I think I lost 3 hands the entire shoe. I maybe pushed 4. Everything else was a win. And the pit boss was watching me the entire time. So, and the beauty of this moment, and I think I won like $1,800 or $2,000 on this shoe or something like that. And it's a great feeling, just crushing it and winning. And the guy is right there. I'm doing it right under his nose. He's got no idea, because I never got above a true 1 on the shoe. So I'm, maybe I was going from like one hand of 50 to one hand of 100. So I'm not really showing a spread.
Yeah.
I'm just making it up on double downs and splits and whatever. I think there was one other person at the table, and they're staring at me like googly eyed, and I'm just like shrugging my shoulders. It was just like a beautiful 15 minutes where you could do no wrong, and it was like the whole world was like my back to just go win this money, but here's why it's like an unhelpful story, I think, from like a teaching moment. I won the money. I didn't earn the money, right? So, at best it was $100 an hour EV gain. And so the thing is that when you look at a lot of the stories on the forum, and I'm guilty of this as well, we want to tell those stories because those stories feel good. It feels good to win a boatload of money. But the problem is that that's not the game we're playing. We're playing a game of EV. And so it's really easy to get hung up on these wins where, hopefully you keep it. But, in the long run, in the long run, we know that EV and AV are going to converge. And there's a really good chance you're going to go sideways for an extended period of time, or below EV to kind of average that out. So I'm kind of always wary of telling those stories, but then the flip side is just like, but I won $2,000 in 15 minutes and got up and left, and it was great,
Yeah, to use you mentioned baseball earlier. I'm just making this analogy up as I go, but even like a National League pitcher, they might get like 1 home run a year.
Right.
And they could tell everybody about like, oh yeah, and I just went up to the plate and I smoked it over left field, and they feel awesome about it. Well, you would never say, oh wow, this guy, he's a great batter. Well, no, it was variance. He swung at the right time, the right pitch, but he bats 50.05 0.050 for the season. But yeah, you got that. What really matters is, what does the long run look like? And a good batter doesn't have to tell about that one home run they hit.
Totally.
The statistics tell the story for them.
Well, and the thing is, I think that at least what my perspective of how to play without dying by the death of 1,000 paper cuts, which is like a line that I use a lot on the forum, is, well, I'm not going to get overly focused on my AV. I'm more focused on what my EV was. And really, I learned that from you. I think we had a conversation at one point, and you had just said, it's like, I'm just focusing on, did I generate EV? And if I did, then I'm going to feel good about that because I know in the long run, this is going to work out. I mean, I guess the flip side is that Mike Tyson quote, like, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
Because losing sucks, right?
It does.
It hurts. And it hurt even when I was, had, the investment from Johnny 2332. I had there was a time where we were so close to closing a bankroll. We were closing, $10,000 was the benchmark, and then I think I dumped $7,500 in 5 hours, and you're just like, and of course we were ahead of EV. We didn't deserve that money anyways. You know what I mean? It was just great to have, and we were so darn close. But that's the game.
So, how long were you actively playing? Was it about a year?
That's a good question. I don't know. It was probably a year and a half, something like that. But it's like I was trying to get in 20 hours a month, and I couldn't even get in 20 hours a month. It wasn't happening because there's just not enough time in the day. For me, any time was fun, because it was an opportunity to get those synapses firing. It was an opportunity to get into the flow. You were asking for, I mean, that was an unhelpful story. A helpful story might be maybe my approach to training or playing, which is I'm going to find joy in playing and training because I'm doing this for me. So, it's like, to me, there was joy in training on the app on my iPhone, or there was joy in doing the test outs on blackjackapprenticeship.com. Because these are all things that were helpful for my game. They were good for my brain. And I was making a proactive choice to do something for myself, and so to me, anytime I can be in the flow, that's a positive thing. And so I would hope that everybody is kind of taking joy in those things, or maybe not taking them for granted. If you think it's tedious, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, and if you're finding and if it's sparking joy and you're kind of finding a way to enjoy it, then I think it's a great thing it's a great pursuit to follow.
Yeah. Is that a Marie Kondo reference there?
It is. It's a total Marie Kondo reference. Yeah.
my
you know what? We watched her show, and my wife and I, we literally put all our clothes on the bed, and we went through that whole is this t-shirt sparking joy? And it was yes. And then we folded it her weird way, and we actually
you thanked it for its time.
Thanked it.
Yeah, my wife read that book before there was I haven't seen the show or whatever. She read that book, and we did this massive purging of stuff. And now there's some good we've taken from that. We do an annual, this is totally off topic, but we call it Work Party Week. This is, I made this up because, it's just I don't know, with 6 kids, we get clutter or messes or whatever. And so this is our way to do a once a year kind of purging and deep cleaning of the house. But kids don't want to do that. So we call it Work Party Week because we'll work for, 4 or 5 hours during the day, cleaning bedrooms and going through clothes. And then we party at night. So we'll have some awesome dinner and watch a movie or do something that feels like a party. And so the kids, they look forward to Work Party Week because the party is better than the downside of the work. So yeah.
I got to implement that in my house.
Yeah. Work Party Week is awesome if you got kids. But yeah, I'll joke around with my wife. Oh, is this sparking joy? And some things, you know what, a plunger doesn't need to spark joy. It just needs to. But other things, it's why am I holding on to this? Anyway, Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo. You got to love her to know where to love her.
Any other stories you wanted to share?
Yeah, another one was maybe the first time that I ever went to a casino to put the entire thing together at once, and it was a great weekend because my wife and kids were out of town, and so I didn't feel guilt in any way, shape, or form about like going out on like a Thursday night at 9 o'clock, and which is maybe at that time maybe we would be getting our kids ready for bed or something like that, or or I don't know, having some sort of family time that where I would have felt like I was in conflict with the family, and so I'm like super pumped. I got like my $500 with me, and it was only like a 1-5 spread, but it's like this is the night I'm putting the whole thing together, and I remember. I even had like emailed you, I think, beforehand. I was like, I don't know, man, what do you think? Should I give this a shot? Do you think I'm ready? And I think you had kind of given me your blessing to go do this. And I was like, this is it. Super pumped. I get there, and it's a packed table. That night, like somebody's blowing smoke in my face. Some woman is hitting on me. There's a Major League Baseball player at my table. And it's loud, and I'm just like completely overwhelmed, and I think I lasted like an hour, and I'm sure it was a negative EV night. Although I had a blast, trying to juggle all these balls, right? I mean, there's a lot. And that night, I sent you an email, and I was like, dude, this is freaking impossible, and here's everything. And then you turned it into a video, which was like the coolest thing. You actually like read my email. I think you left out like the part about the baseball player that I mentioned, and you turned it into a video that was like one of these little 5-minute snippet things that you did. And I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world, that maybe some question that I had was somehow relevant to more than just me or whatever.
I share that video with people. I don't know. I feel like every week someone is like, hey, how it's so hard to do with everything else going on. I'm like, oh yeah, I made a video about that because we've all been there, myself included. That's awesome.
And it does get easier, part of it gets easier when I mean, here's the trick. Here's the tip. You have to embrace it instead of fight it. It's like all the distractions are going to be there all the time. And I think your mental attitude towards it, and just saying, you know what, this is the environment. So what? And here I go, as opposed to, oh God, that guy's really bugging me, and this guy's blowing smoke in my face, and I'm going to get emphysema in 6 months and die, and and if you just kind of embrace and say, this is exactly what it looks like, and I know what to do. I've been training for this, and then just go in and do your thing. And I don't know, for some reason, for me, that's what the internal dialogue I have with myself is so highly correlated with the outcome. Not if I won or lost, but if I generated EV, if I played well, if I did whatever I'm doing in life, So yeah, just embrace it.
Awesome. So I want to do a little bit of a recap here. You got into card counting because you were cholesterol. That one of the side effects of medication is memory, and it's like you just needed something, a challenge, a mental challenge. You threw yourself into it. You trained, you networked, you learned from others. Put together a $5,000 bankroll, generated $14 an hour on that, and then decided to be bankrolled on 50,000, which I would say would be medium high stakes bankroll. You got to have all those experiences, maybe a couple hundred hours at the medium high stakes. And then, it was like just before COVID, you decided, you know what? I have goals in my life. This has been fun, but this doesn't fit where I'm going. And, this is a good thing, but maybe not, a best thing for your life. After all of that, do you feel like card counting has served its purpose for you? Or do you feel like it was maybe a little bit of a distraction?
No, it was not a distraction. Well, it might have been a distraction long-term, but was it worth it? Of course. I mean, oh my God. Yes, it served its purpose. I mean, there's a couple things. One, I want my life to be full of adventure. I don't want to stagnate ever. I always want to try new things. That's part of what life is. And card counting was an adventure. It served its purpose because I think in retrospect, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I think I did also need something to call my own. It's like I tend to be a giver, whether that's at work or with family, and try to take care of others first. And so I think what card counting was for me was something that I could really call my own. This is my time. And even if I was driving by myself to a casino, I was an hour away. That was my choice to do that and to play for a couple of hours. That was my choice. And that felt really good. And then it served its purpose because of the camaraderie and getting to meet a ton of amazing people that are truly good friends, at this point. And that's fantastic. And then there was this other side thing that kind of came of it there was no way I could have predicted this, but I really enjoyed writing on the forum. And that was another way that my synapses could fire and I could get into the flow. Writing a little blog that takes 20 minutes to write or whatever, and to have that deep concentration was like this amazing side benefit that was completely unexpected. So card counting absolutely served its purpose for me.
That's awesome. I hadn't thought a whole lot about. I think sometimes I have some dread over. I've got to record some videos because we put out one a month on YouTube, and it's like, oh no, I got to film a bunch of videos. But whether it's that or writing a blog post or writing a book, other than the like discipline of it, there's a lot of benefits to the mental aspect of collecting thoughts and communicating them and really trying to. I love teaching, so hey, if I can put this in a way that helps people understand something, there's a huge benefit to just that process, that creative process. We both have backgrounds in music. You more professional than me, but I've always needed some sort of creative outlet, and a lot of that because I want most of my free time being with my family. The creative outlet is even within my business, so that's cool.
I guess for people that don't know, I wrote music for film and TV for 15 years, and I own a record label that licenses a lot of music to film and TV, and we've got several studios, and so anyways, my life is defined by creativity in many respects.
But sometimes it can be tough when your business pursuit is like, I have to be creative, and to have something outside of that where it's not like to put food on the table, I've got to be creative today. It's outside of that. I've done more woodworking and things like that. I'll build something with my son or with my wife, or even just by myself out in the garage. And that can fit a different need than I have to create today.
Sure. Yeah, it's different. But I'll say this, it's not limited just to creativity, but just generally speaking, you need to find a way. When I say you, I just mean humans in general, to find their bliss, which is what, that's how Joseph Campbell would say it, or others would say, find your Zen. And it could be woodworking, or it could be card counting, or learning how to count cards, or it could be working on a car. It really doesn't matter. It's different for every person. For me, finding my bliss is any time that I'm in that flow. And I can do that creatively, or I could do it, card counting in some ways, card counting is a different kind of concentration. The creativity might come with dealing with a pit boss or something, but the actual mechanics of it are extremely different, right? Yeah. So that's kind of like a more mechanical, when this happens, you do this. When A happens, you do B. When 9 happens, you do 10, right? But find your Zen, and the rest kind of takes care of it. It takes care of itself.
That's awesome.
I mentioned this. Can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
Every 6 months on the forum, somebody who's kind of on the younger side, that's disgruntled with their job, I think fantasizes about what it means to go pro as a card counter. And I never went pro as a card counter, right? Just to be clear, I'm not saying that I was, right? But immediately you will see people on the forum say, hey, you're unsatisfied with your job. That's different than being a full-time card counter and whatever it is that you think that looks like. And I think that those people on the forum often have not found their bliss yet, or have not found their zen, or have not found their groove. And that's kind of why they're disgruntled, and then they're projecting that card counting will be the saving grace for their misery at work. It weighs on me because most pros that I know, it's really hard. It's really hard what they do. And when they start opening up about it, and the grind and the travel and sleeping in your car, or the bed bugs in the crappy motel, or not eating healthy, or, all these other things, kind of weigh in on that.
Yeah. I mean, life is hard, but it is really easy to think like, oh, this next thing, that's when I'll, that's when I'll hit the flow. That's when I'll be happy. If I remember, I'd love to get married, and get married. Okay. Well, then if I, figure out what I want to do having kids, getting the kids out of the house, like there's some next, like that next thing, rather than, learning to find meaning and joy and all that, amidst, and just realize that the next thing probably isn't gonna, just be the magical, the silver bullet. But I don't want to get on a, pulpit or anything, but I think it is easy to think, oh, this will do it. And it very well it'll have its own challenges.
Right.
You said a little bit ago that, that you've made some really deep friendships through this. So what, when you're not pursuing advantage play or card counting anymore, why do you continue to, seek relationship with APs?
My relationships with APs extend beyond just card counting. They happen to be friends that are APs. They're not my friends because they're APs, right? Yeah. I feel like, my free time is de minimis, and I want to make sure that I'm spending time with people that, I'm attracted to people that are taking life by the balls, that are writing their own rules, in some cases striving for something better. And so some of the APs that I know have done exactly that. And I really admire that. And I think that the qualities that they have would have made them successful in a lot of other areas as well. But it just so happens that this was the path that they found to get them from point A to point Z. So, they're just really good people. And for some of the people that are my friends that had really mentored me early on, I also want to reciprocate as much as I can. And maybe there are ways that I can help them in other areas of their life. I mean, that's what friendship is, right? It's kind of like this two-way street where you go to somebody with a problem and they help you, and then they come to you with a problem and maybe you can help them, or maybe just listening is enough, or whatever. So, and also these people can become your friends because you're having shared experiences that bond you, right? It's almost like summer camp, right? It's like, you go to summer camp and you're in like a bunk with like, 5 other kids, and you're hearing ghost stories and getting scared, out of your pants. And, it's like that bonds you, right? Well, with APs, there's this sense of adventure that creates bonding moments. If you're on the road with somebody, not just Johnny, but, meeting up with others as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also, it probably plays into why you're still active on the forum after.
Yeah. I think it's important. I mean, I enjoy being active on the forum. I'll say that, the last year, I've probably been a little less active on the forum than I was prior, for a couple of reasons, some by design, some not by design. With COVID, you had fewer people playing and that were kind of bumping up against these real world experiences that where guidance was needed. Like there was maybe like a learning moment, like, this just happened to me. What should have I done? Well, with COVID, fewer people were playing. And so therefore there was less of a need for that. I was been a little bit less active because there's other people that have stepped up on the forum and it's their turn now. It's not, I don't need to repeat myself. Maybe there's somebody else out there that can say something in a different way or a better way that can contribute to to that community, and they need to have their moment as well, right? But I'll always be active on the forum because the forum is fascinating, and it's great to, in some ways, vicariously live through people that are going through this adventure because it reminds me of my adventure. So, and it's great to be able to help out, and maybe the forum is still helping me too, because as I said, it gives me that opportunity to get into the flow and think deeply about something and hopefully give good advice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're right. There's so many, life or business analogies from card counting, and so even when you could be talking about this specific skill, but sometimes it just gets your brain going on how it applies to things outside of casinos too.
Honestly, if you really go back and read my posts, some of them from, blogs that I did on my own, sometimes they're just responses from somebody else. I mean, 80% of the time, I'm not even sure I'm talking about blackjack. I think so. I'm just couching it in, in terms of blackjack, and so maybe that it resonates with people sometimes because it has a little bit more heart or something like that. I don't really know.
I hope you enjoyed part 1. In part 2 of my podcast interview with GreaseMonkey, we're going to be answering 5 questions that you guys put on the forum for us, including a pretty lengthy discussion about mental health, the impact of card counting and advantage play on mental health, what we can do to protect ourselves and our mental health if you're out there playing either part-time or full-time as an advantage player, and some other questions from you guys. And we'll finish off by parting thoughts from GreaseMonkey. So that should be out soon, and I will catch you guys later.